Hi there, I'm Tia Curtis and you are in Trapunto with Tia. So I hope you guys are having a great time at the QuiltCon Together. I know I've been working on these classes for months. I hope they turn out okay. This particular class is, I'm calling it Easy Trapunto. So we're going to cover a couple different topics in this class. We're going to cover classic trapunto. We're going to cover just stacking up batting, like layers of batting to create definition. We're going to play with my shortcut technique as well as stuffed work. All of these techniques have their own, good parts and bad parts. But I want you guys to play with these and find techniques that work for you that you might want to use in your next quilt. So let's go ahead and look at some of these samples. I wish you guys were here with me because it would be so fun to pass these around and we could all feel them because they're very, very textural. So this particular sample, I've added extra batting behind the applique pieces, as well as quilted this background really densely. And these parts that are unquilted have raised to the front. Not quite as much as these pieces that have been stuffed, but it's very, very textural. This next sample, this is the 4 things we're going to do in class. This first little empty polka dot, this was made with classic trapunto. I've sewn batting to the back of the piece, then I've cut it away, and then I quilted. This one, this is just a little piece of applique that I've sewn, but I haven't quilted it, so there's a little more, so it's bigger. But it's not puffy, it's very flat. This one is an appliqued circle, but I have inserted a piece of wool batting, so it's definitely more textural. And this last one, this one is like, this is hard, this is firm. This one I have stuffed. So if you've ever seen old quilts that have berries on them that are really sticking out of the quilt, oftentimes those are stuffed. So we're going to cover stuffed work briefly. This next sample, this is one of my very favorite kind of faux trapunto techniques. I have layered different layers of batting. There's a layer of blend, there's 2 layers of wool, and this feather that I've quilted really comes to the foreground because of that definition. Then I've quilted really, really closely, super dense, around the feather that is really creating more definition. And I haven't removed any of my lines, you judge me if you wish. So I wanted to show you some practical applications for these techniques. So this is a quilt I made, I think last year. I was really into circles. All of my circles have an extra layer of batting behind them. And so that they're puffy. And this next sample, I only have 1 extra layer of batting behind each of these little drunkard's paths. So while there is definition, there's not a ton of definition, especially compared to the earlier samples. And for my last sample, let's look at some cats. Meow. So behind each cat face, I have added extra batting. And this is not done with classic trapunto. This is done with my shortcut trapunto that we will see later. Now, I was raised in the South. I say Trapunto. I think the actual way to say it is Trapunto. So I apologize if I offend anyone with my poor pronunciation of the word, but I know I'm going to say it wrong. You know, forgive me right from the beginning. I'll try to say Trapunto, but that makes me feel too fancy. So you can use your fake Trapunto behind your different applique elements. So, are you ready? Are you ready to jump in? Are you ready to get started in our easy Trapunto? I hope so, because it's gonna be fun. Prepare yourself. Let's do it. Okay, let's master classic Trapunto. So I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on this very classic method of Trapunto because I think it's incredibly difficult. It's very time consuming and I really have only done it to get prepared for this class. I do my technique of Trapunto, but I did want to kind of give you guys an overview of this classic Trapunto. So one of the most important things of Trapunto is the batting you're going to use. So look at your little stack of batting, and if you ordered a kit from me, you'll have a variety of batting types. There'll be one that's a very low loft. This is the blend. This is going to go on as the very bottom layer when we get ready to start quilting. So set Mr. Blend aside. Then you'll have a fluffy batting. Well, I'm sure that I'm going to be sending you guys wool because wool is my 100% all time. The angels sing the best batting. Wool batting is my favorite. I love how fluffy and lofty it is. It's awesome. There's another product called puff batting. Puff is a polyester that's super puffy. You know, go figure, the name. So I also sometimes use it when I'm doing Trapunto work. You choose. If you got your kit from me, you'll be using wool. If you are getting, you know, your supplies for your own sewing studio, which is awesome, use whatever is your fluffiest batting. It might be the puff. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our scissors. We're going to cut out a shape of our batting. Well, this was your homework. Did you do your homework? I don't know. If you got a kit from me, I sure hope you did. So what I wanted you to do is sew a bunch of these little squircle shapes. They're kind of circular squares or circular rectangles. I think that they're very easy to applique, especially if you're new to applique. These are very forgiving. So I've kind of scattered mine across my top. So for this classic Trapunto, we need to find a spot that doesn't have something appliqued on it. So I'm going to use this area right here, okay? So take your marking pencil. This is just a sew line white chalk. I chose this because hopefully it'll show up on camera. If you're using a light fabric, I absolutely love this Sew Line water erasable pen. And this is just the coolest thing to erase the water line or the mark lines with. It's like a little wet nubby eraser. I love it. Anyway, if you've got those, use them if you're using light fabric. So I want to draw a shape that's kind of like this squircle. I'm going to go ahead and do it right here. Dun, dun, dun. So this line that I'm drawing on here is going to be the line that I stitch on. It's kind of a funky shape, but he goes with the party, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my piece of wool batting and I want to cut a piece that's a little bit bigger than this piece that I've drawn. So just take whatever your regular scissors are. I can do this and still be in this shot. All right. And we're gonna cut from this same batting later, so don't, throw it away, keep it close by. So here's my piece of wool batting. I wanna put it behind my shape that I drew. So you can just kind of feel, shoot, you can see where my batting is behind that shape. Let's scooch it over a little bit more. We're perfectly centered right now. So take a pen or glue. If you've got a glue stick, you could have glued the back. I'm just gonna use a pen because I've got it. And now we're gonna trot over to our sewing machine and I'm just gonna sew around that shape, okay? So join me at the sewing machine in just a second. I've changed to my sewing machine. You'll notice that I have a free motion foot on my machine. This is just the one I had handy. If yours looks different, it doesn't matter. Just use a free motion foot, or if you're more comfortable with your walking foot, that's fine too. We just need to sew around this line, okay? So let's get started. And I'm using white thread. Hopefully it's so you guys can see it. I mean, I think if I was doing this for something special, I would use a navy blue thread. Get into our little pins. Okay, look, that's it. Let's take it off and we're gonna cut the batting from behind, okay? We have our little thing stitched down. Now we have to cut it away. I like these I think they're called duck-billed scissors. They keep me from cutting my fabric. So we flip it upside down, and I used black bobbin thread, and I could see it. You don't have to use different colored bobbin thread. So what we do is we just cut away as close to that stitch line as you can. Be really careful. Do not cut your front of your quilt, the fabric. And you just cut this away. So you could see how this could become quite tedious and time consuming if you were doing it with, like a beautiful applique, like flower arrangement or a whole feather that you quilted. Yeah, that would be for the birds real fast. And we just cut it away, cut away, cut away. And you could do this with multiple layers of batting. You don't have to only use one. It's entirely up to you. Can you see my weird hand in the way? Sorry about that. I gotta use both of them though. So here we go, we're almost done. Boom. So we have just the littlest bit of batting left. So now I want you to see how it'll look if we're like, okay, I'm done with my work, I'm gonna now quilt. If you only have that one piece with just a little bit of batting behind it, look, it already is creating this lift, okay? And if this is like your favorite thing ever and you love this technique, you can use dissolvable thread and that initial line will come out, when you wash it after you've done all the rest of the quilting. So that is traditional trapunto. If we'd done this all over the quilt, now it would be time to go ahead and quilt it, but we're not. We're not gonna do that yet. We're not stopping here. We're going to go on to the next phase of our class, and we're gonna maybe do some stuff work. Let's stuff next. All right, so prepare yourself for stuffing. we have our initial traditional Trapunto piece done. Now we're going to move on to stuffed work. I've chosen 3 random squircles that I'm going to stuff. You choose whichever ones you want. So what we need to do now is we need to have a tool with which to stuff. We need stuffing with which to stuff, and we need some sharp scissors, okay? So I found this little clover stuffing tool a couple years ago, and it's absolutely awesome. It's got like this little crook in the arm, and I don't know, something magic happens and it works really easily. If you do not have one of those, a knitting needle also works splendidly. Or shoot, even a chopstick. If you have some of those wooden takeout chopsticks, those work really, really well too. So choose your stuffing, choose your tool, choose your scissors, choose your squircles. Let's flip this piece over because we're going to be working from the back side now. Ta-da! All right. So I'm going to start with this guy right in the middle. Let's remove the pin. Stab myself with both the scissor and the pin at the same time. You need to, if you use glue to hold your pieces down, and I did, you need to kind of pull it apart. All right. That's what I like about the Elmer's glue with applique, because it just comes apart so easily. So we're not going to cut the whole piece out. We're just going to make a little incision. So this is where everybody gets to be a surgeon. Going to make the initial incision. All right. That was pretty dramatic, wasn't it? So make it like a little line with which to work from. All right. Grab yourself some stuffing, and this is cotton stuffing from Quilter's Dream. I like it a lot. You could also use wool batting. You could kind of pull it apart, and that makes good stuffing as well. Or you can use poly stuffing, whatever you have. So let's get our little piece. We stick it in the hole and we stuff it in. Boom. Seriously, we're just stuffing. And I don't know, I think this is actually quite fun. If you ever made stuffed animals, I like stuffing those too. I'm not especially good at it, but I do like doing it. So here we go. See, look how easy this little stuffing tool is to use. It just jabs it right on in. I'll use my knitting needle for the next bit. Yeah, and that works easy too. Just stuff it. Now you can make these really, really hard, really stuff them, or you can kind of make it soft still. I'm gonna flip this over and we're gonna look again. So stop once in a while, flip your work over and check to see how the stuffing is going. I can tell that I need more over here in this corner because it was looking pretty full from the back, but from the front, no, we need more stuffing. So flip it back over and stuff some more. You've got some nice music. This is a good time to listen to it. Or, you know, watch something on Netflix. I don't know what's happening on Netflix in your world. Trying to think of a good show that I've seen lately. I like The Great British Bake Off. I make my family watch with me. So let's just stuff it like it's like a little donut. Let's see, how are we feeling now? Ooh, I can tell that I need some more over here. stuff that over to the side. Oh, and shoot, maybe you want like a donut shape and then you would not stuff in the middle, just stuff around the sides. Oh, God, like the options. The options with stuffed work are endless. Let's just give her a little bit more over here. And now I'm gonna move on to another one. I'm gonna choose this one now. So again, let's remove our pen so we don't hurt ourselves. Get our scissors and prepare our patient for its incision. Ooh, this one I really glued like crazy. All right, so you pull it apart and let's cut. Be careful, do not cut all the way through to the applique in front. So make a snip there, and you don't have to make a big incision, okay? Just make a respectable incision. It's up to you to decide what that is. All right, let's stuff it. Stuff. So the stuffing can really create a ton of texture. So, you know, keep that in mind because it's very fun to stuff your pieces, but, you know, you don't want it to look ridiculous, do you? That's when all the quilt police just start laughing like crazy at you. All right, so that one, I don't want to put too much stuffing in this one, so I'm gonna kind of spread it around with my fingers. There, use my little tool. Perfect. All right, let's do this last guy. It's right over here. And after we get this one stuffed, we are going to move on to our next phase. So, you know, let's think of some practical applications for this work. You can use it to make like flowers really pop forward. Perhaps you're quilting, you know, a quilt for, I don't know, your favorite gardener and you want to put flowers all over it. You can stuff the flowers and that'll look really cool. Geez, that was loud. I didn't make my hole big enough. All right, so let's keep stuffing. A little bit more. But stuffed work is quite common on some old quilts. If you ever get the chance to go to the Lincoln Quilt Study Center, the International Study Center in Lincoln, Nebraska, they have some amazing quilts and they have some pretty incredible ones that have had stuffed work done. All right, so I'm just gonna let her go right here. You can see that I have stuffed 1, 2, 3. Let's flip it over and see what it looks like. Oh my goodness, what wonderful work we've done. So you see that I've really stuffed a lot out of this one. This one is quite stuffed. This one looks good. These are really gonna look cool when we layer them with the regular quilt batting and we start to do our quilting, okay? So they look awesome right now, but they're gonna really look cool after it's quilted. All right, come back for the next phase. Okay, we've done our classic trapunto. We've done our very fun stuff work. Now we're going to do my shortcut trapunto, or my easy trapunto. So what you're gonna need is you're gonna need a little template. So this is roughly the size and shape of these little forms that we've sewn down. We're gonna need some fluffy batting. This is wool that I've cut into squares. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut it into this shape, all right? So it needs to be smaller than what we've got here because it's going to go behind the piece. We're gonna cut the back of the applique off and we're going to put this inside. So here's this little piece. Let's see, which one do you fit? Geez Louise, that's almost perfect. Let's put you there. I wanna be here. Let's shoot for this one over here. So cut our little shape out. The size doesn't really matter so much. Let's cut you. I think you want to be here. So I'm just laying them on top of the design for now. In just a minute, we're gonna flip this quilt over. And we're gonna do the next step. So if you are doing applique with a pattern, which I know lots of people do, as you're cutting out your applique shape, like pretend this is a tulip, I would go ahead and quilt or cut out extra batting of the same shape or piece. And let's see, I think you want to go over there. And you can leave, like you can go ahead and pin, like you see that it's not perfect. I don't think it's really gonna matter so much. But you can go ahead and pin each of these pieces in place so you know which one goes with which. Oh, you didn't, did I cut you? You don't look that squirkly. There, now you do. Okay. Just to try to make a nod at being organized. All right, so we know that this one we're gonna start with. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this piece over and I'm gonna cut the backing and then I'm gonna put this little piece in, okay? You need glue as well. So we flipped our piece over. I know that this little piece of batting is going to go with this shape. So pull them apart if you use glue, and I did. And now you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut this back away. But you're not going to cut all of it. You're going to leave your seam allowance because it's going to help hold that shape in. All right. So just be careful, cut gently. Make sure you don't, cut through to the other side. Don't cut your piece of applique, because that would be sad. So look, we got our little hole here. Now we're going to jab this little piece of batting inside. And that seam allowance is gonna hold it in place. But if you don't have faith, you can use Elmer's glue. This is a nasty, nasty glue stick. I think it's left over from when my kids were in elementary school. But it still works. So we just glue it in there. Run your finger around the inside of that seam allowance so the shape fits nicely. Press it down. And there we go. How easy was that? I think that's way easier than this type of Trapunto. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of them that I wanted to do, and we're just gonna film. You know, feel free to ask questions. Oh, if only this was real life, right? So we just flip it over and cut it out. Now, obviously, these are not directional shapes, really. They're just little circly things. If, you know, if you have a directional shape, you know, obviously you'd pay attention to that. Yeah. And it's kind of fun to cut the pieces out behind. Now, it's also a good idea to cut the pieces out behind because my background is dark and the pieces I'm appliquing on are light. So that shadowing would really show through. So let's stick this down and now run your finger around the seam allowance. There we go. And it fits in real nice. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. You know, perfection, that is too hard to achieve, y'all. I'm gonna do this one now. And you can do more than one layer of batting. It doesn't just have to be one layer of batting. You could do multiple layers during this step. I made a COVID quilt at the beginning of the pandemic, and I made these stuffed bats. I appliqued these big black bats onto my quilt, and I added 3 layers of batting behind them. And it looks really, really awesome. In my opinion, you know, I'm sure it's not for everybody, but I like it. So stick, run your finger around the inside of your seam allowance. So obviously this is more seam allowance than if I wasn't going to stuff. If I wasn't going to stuff my applique, but I was still going to cut the back away, I would cut it quite a bit closer to my sewn line. All right. So yeah, that's just what we do. I'm not gonna stuff all of them because when we go over to the sewing machine, I'm just not. I just chose not to. Because I think it looks cool to have the different layers and the different, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but I don't stuff them all. I like to have a variety because that's the spice of life, right? Variety. All right, y'all, I'm gonna finish this and then we're gonna go to a sewing machine. Now, I'm going to use my long arm because that's the tool that I use every day. It's what I'm very comfortable using. If you typically use your domestic sewing machine, you know, this technique, you know, the quilting part, it's fine done on your domestic sewing machine. You'll use the same stacking technique. It's no big thing. I'm just going to show on my long arm because I'm a better long arm quilter than I am a domestic quilter. Okay, so next up, we'll meet at the long arm. So now we're going to work on quilting our Trapunto piece. I have moved to my long arm. If you do not have a long arm, that's fine. You'll be doing this on your domestic machine. Same exact principles, just with a different machine. It's no big deal. It's fine. So what we're gonna do is we're going to base down our piece. Obviously, if you're doing this on a domestic machine, you're using pins to baste or you're using glue, whatever is your favorite basting method. That's up to you. You can do this. I'll just be basting around the perimeter of my piece and then I'll be quilting. On this same piece, we're going to be doing our kind of fake trapunto, all right? So you'll notice, I don't know if you'll notice or not, but I'm going to show you. I have 2 layers of batting here. I have just a cotton or blend on the bottom, and I have Fraken battinged a layer of wool. So this is just a small piece, you know, it's a class sample. You know, I don't know what will become of it, so I'm just throwing together scraps of batting. You know, if you're doing a big quilt, obviously you'll want good batting from like a roll or a pack or whatever, but I've used my lower loft on the bottom, which is this, I think this is just a low layer, a skinny cotton, might be blend. This is a wool. So I always want whatever is my fluffier batting to be on top. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and baste. That doesn't really need to be in the shot, but then I'll move the view closer and we'll see what I'm doing here, okay? All right, here we are. I have based my little quilt down, and let's use our hands to feel what we've done to the back of these little square things. So this one is way high. This one is one of the ones that I've stuffed. This one has nothing at all behind it. This one has just the one layer of wool that we cut away from the back, we put glue, and we stuffed a piece of wool behind this one. So I guess in real life it has one layer of wool stuffed inside of it, a layer of wool batting, and a layer of cotton batting behind it. So this has 3 layers of wool, or sorry, 3 layers of something behind it. This one is going to stand up like crazy because we really stuffed this one full. This one is just going to have the double batting, so the wool that we've got behind and the cotton. So these are all going to have a little bit of different looks. Then we're going to also use our fake trapunto technique to create more definition in the background. I'm going to do similar quilting that I did here in this piece. So it's just circles, because I figure circles are not difficult to do. Everybody will be able to do them, but they always look really, really good. And with our multiple layers of batting that we have behind our piece, we're going to create kind of a fake trapunto look, a definition, which is the same thing I did with this piece to create these really defined puffy feathers. So we're going to do the same technique, but a little bit more modern with this blue, with just circles, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. I have rulers that I'm going to try to use. I don't know if I could do those and avoid the camera. So, you know, I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing, but here we go. So this thing is called a Daloa Apple Guide. Daloa Apple Guide is awesome because you just snap it on your machine. Let's get our thread out of the way. So you just snap it onto the foot of your machine and you can guide your machine really close around whatever applique you're doing. And if you don't have one of those, that's cool. You know, I'm not in cahoots with Daloa. I just really love this product. You can just use a regular ruler to quilt around as well. All right, so let's begin. We're going to start with this square thing that doesn't have any extra treatment behind it. So I've brought my bobbin thread up. My top thread is this funny aqua color, so I figured it would be visible but not too obnoxious. All right, so you can just stitch real close to your applique. You know, just go slow. Or if you have an applique guide, and obviously this was not in the supply list, but if you have it, this is a fun time to use it. So here we go. So see how you could really get close to our applique by guiding with this applique guide. So you want to get as close to your applique as you can, because what happens is it just kind of frames it off and it pops it up. Okay. Here we go. We're going around. All right. So we've got that one done. Let's scoot that away. And now let's quilt. So we can make circles. And if you want them to really pop up, go around them a couple times. See, if we just go around once, it's not so defined, but twice, look at the definition that's happening behind it. And we're going to work our way up to this one that just has the batting that we cut away and placed in. All right, we're almost there. So we're going to quilt around this one again, just to define it. And I'm going to use my ruler this time. I'm trying to keep my hand out of this shot. Ugh. Normally I'd be right in front of the machine doing this. Okay, boom, we got that one done. All right, so see how that little stitching around has really lifted him up. And now if we make bigger circles and stitch around them a couple times, look at that cool definition that happens. All right, so now we're at this one that is super, super puffy. This is the one that we stuffed with our cotton stuffing. Whoops, just dropped a ruler. So let's get close to it. Oh, I'm getting ready to hit the camera with my machine. I'm gonna scooch us back a bit. All right, sorry about that. Carry on. Okay. Oh, look how that really sticks up now. So now we're going to fill in around it with some fun pebbles. And I call these messy pebbles because we just really add extra stitching around them. And that extra stitching pushes them to the center. And it's so tactile. Now obviously this uses up a lot of thread, but that's okay. And my dog has figured out that I am filming and she's over there whining at the door. So if you hear that in the background, it's just Cora. All right. So look at what we've got so far. We've got some pretty fun pebbles. We've got our applique. And boy, do we have texture. We need to get over to the one that we did the traditional trapunto behind. I'm going to go ahead and outline this one. So this is another one with nothing behind it. So let's stitch around. So we slow down when we go around our applique, right?
that looks already. And you know what? I don't hate the contrast in the thread color either. I think that that looks pretty cool. So we'll just carry on quilting around in this manner for the whole piece. But you know what would also look really, really awesome? I just dropped my other ruler. What would really look cool too is if we just did like little straight lines. That would look beautiful. So there's tons of different, well, or any of a myriad of quilting designs we could do in the background. But look at the lift we have created by quilting tight around these pieces that we've added extra elements to. So we need to get over there and get to this piece that has the more traditional trapunto behind it. So I have quilted this messy pebble texture behind these appliques, and now I'm over here to this one piece of the traditional trapunto that we made at the very beginning of class. So what I want to do is I want to stitch on the outside of that line that I sewed in with my my little Bernina, and then I'm going to take these stitches out later. Now if I would have been smart and used dissolvable thread, I could have just submerged this piece and that thread would just come out, which is absolutely the beauty of the dissolvable thread. But I didn't do that. So let's give her a go and see what happens. So let's try to get close to the line, but not right to it, because we're going to quilt all around, and that piece of batting that we have stitched in is not going to come out. It won't, because it's stuck there, right? So here we go, stitching around, stitching around. We're going to remove that white thread, or whatever color that is. I can't really tell. All right, so now it's time to add our pebbles real close to it. And you can see how nice that's puffing up. Oh, let's add a big circle. So just be careful and don't stitch over that white line, because that just makes it a little harder to remove. Look at that. We have some easy trapunto. We are doing it. It looks great. Now, because we have multiple layers of batting behind our background, what would happen if we just make a gigantic, pebble? That's not that gigantic. Let's make a big one. Right? So we're doing a big pebble here. Let me check and see if that's in the shot. Oh yeah, it is. So we've got our big pebble there. And so this is kind of a fake trapunto, because it'll have a big open space where there's no quilting. So it'll definitely pop up to the front, won't it? So let's give this guy some more definition. And we're going to go and we're going to add more definition behind all of our applique pieces too, so people will think that, we worked really hard and we did all this fancy cutaway trapunto behind our our piece. Let's add another one. So now we're going with the theme, right? Oh, this is so much great texture, y'all. There's a Spanish artist I really like. I can't think of her name right now. I'll put it wherever I can put it so you can read it. But she does these incredible textile pieces where she makes like little pillows and she stitches them all together and hangs them in these huge installation pieces. And this kind of reminds me of her work because it's so tactile. I'm gonna get back over to that Trapunto piece. Let's give you another circle. So now let's go around this one a couple times. And I really want to use my other hand. Maybe this will help. So now look how it's really rising up out of the background. But does it look so much different than these ones? I don't know. This is my hair I'm shedding. Well, yeah, it's definitely more puffy because it's a whole extra layer of batting behind it than these. Anyway, I love this technique for adding heaps of dimension and texture behind your quilting. It almost becomes sculptural, how you can really force these pieces up. Now, obviously, we're using just these simple circle shapes. You can use any shape you want. You know, you can do this behind beautiful tulip applique, or you can do it behind like a different piecework. Like if you made like a, I don't know, simple half square triangle quilt, you could really elevate it by adding some trapunto, some of our stuffed work or some of our trapunto behind some of your piecing. It's just a great extra step to your quilting.
So this is the conclusion of our easy trapunto class. You learned classic trapunto, stuffed work, shortcut trapunto, and fake trapunto, which is just using multiple layers of batting when you quilt. I love this technique. I use it a lot in my quilts, and golly, I hope you guys do too. I hope you think to add it in on the next quilt you make and just make it a little more textural, a little more tactile. It's very fun and it makes things look exciting. So thank you for joining me. If you guys have any questions at all, you guys can email me, you can reach out to me through QuiltCon Together. I know I have live sessions too, and I would love to see you. Of course, this would be way better in real life, but you know, we've gotta do what we do. My email is tiacurtisquilts@gmail.com. My website is www.tiacurtisquilts.com, okay? So I'd love to connect. Let me see what you do, and when you use this on your next quilt, you know, let me know. I'd love to see it. Y'all take care. Bye.